Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Dr. Norila and my fellow friends. I am Putra Nurina Aisyah binti Suhardi. My matric number is 2312916. I am from group 9 and our group are presenting on topic secular humanism. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to introduce the topic of secular humanism. First of all, what is secular humanism? First, secular humanism is a philosophy of belief system based on human reason, logic and ethics. Next, secular humanism rejects religious dogma, supernatural belief and superstition. And next, secular humanism has its own concept, characteristic, principle and history. And then, secularism rooted in humanist ethics, science and philosophical naturalism. Secular humanism focuses on solving human problems through compassion, critical thinking, human experience, and secularism does not rely on faith, theology or mysticism. Next, I will present about the concept and historical. In early America, Protestant Christianity dominated public life and school, and their religious minorities often stayed separate and didn't challenge this dominance. Then more culture changes because of more open discussion about sex, divorce, birth control and homosexuality. So these new attitudes made conservative Christians feel their values were being attacked. Okay. In the case of Torcaso against Watkins in 1961, government cannot force belief in God for public office. Next, Justice Hugo Black's footnote mentioned that Buddhism and ethical culture as a non-theistic religion. In the case of Angel against Vitel in 1962, and in the case of Vinton against Kemp in 1963, both cases banned prayer and Bible reading in public school, and this legal decision were perceived not just as secularizing the public sphere but as actively promoting a hostile ideology, what they began to call secular humanism. Okay, so from the previous case, it got reaction from the fundamentalists, which is they believe there was a conspiracy against Christianity. Okay. They saw secular humanism as the enemy behind cultural and moral decline. Legal and political effort. There has a lawsuit claim that evolution and sex education promoted the religion of secular humanism, and its attempts were made to ban federal funding from programs seen as humanist. In addition, the concept of secular humanism was given clearer ideological, shaped by the work of John Whitehead and John Conlon in 1978. Okay? They argued that secular humanism had displaced Protestant Christianity through a series of misguided court rulings. Okay? They relying heavily on documents such as Humanist Manifesto 1, in the year 1933, and Humanist Manifesto 2 in the year 1973. They define secular humanism as a belief system that worships human reason and autonomy over divine authority. Okay, according to them, its main feature included atheism, moral relativism, and a belief in evolution, qualities they claim undermine the moral fabric of society. Next, this legal argument gained mass appeal with the publication of Ralph Tim LaHaye's 1980 book, which is the book name is The Battle for the Mind. Okay, LaHaye popularized fear of secular humanism, and he blamed secular humanism for crime, divorce, drug, communism and more. Okay. And then the efforts of this movement will decide by the case of Smith against Mobile 1987. Okay, in this case, the judge ruled that secular humanism was a religion being taught in schools. Okay, then the decision was later overturned. So in conclusion, secular humanism became a simple label for everything fundamental disliked, such as evolution, immorality, loss of faith, and culture change. It wasn't about a humanism organization, which was small, but about fears of ever losing traditional Christian influence. So I will pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
I will explain about the principles of the human secularism. So every belief or religious have their own principle to distinguish between each other. So first, the principle of human secularism is the rejection of the God as the cause the universe. So this belief does not acknowledge and reject that God created the universe and the creature found in the world. So secular humanism maintain that traditional religion that place evaluation, God, ritual and creed above human needs and experience to the deserves to the mankind. Next, secular humanism adopt ethical relativism, which is the belief that has no absolute moral code exists, and therefore man must adjust his ethical standards in each situation according to his own judgment. So this explains that humans must correct and evaluate their ethical because human secularism has no rules on immorality. So secular humanism posits that human beings are capable of being ethical and moral without religion or a god, and hold that ethics is consequential to be judged by results. So secular humanism also aims to establish moral principles conducive to the freedom and well-being of humans based on ethical reasoning that is independent of all alleged supernatural sources of morality. Besides, the secular humanism's rejection of the supernatural or God is central to their avowal or enthronement of the individual autonomy and freedom. So this explains that they believe that humans can use their own reason and judgment to determine the meaning of life and moral values without relying on religious teachings or external forces, and focusing on the freedom of the individual. So they can express their belief in maximum individual autonomy, concerned with social responsibility by rejecting entirely all religious, ideological or moral codes that denigrate the individual, suppress freedom, dull intellect and dehumanize personality. So lastly, secular humanism is tied to the notion that the individual must experience full range of civil liberties in our society to enhance freedom and dignity of the same individual. So they explain that individuals should be given the right to make choice or express opinions without being pressured by authorities such as religious authorities. So for the issue of the democratic society, secular humanism holds that the principles of the moral quality must be furthered through the elimination based on race, religion, sex or national origin. So it is to provide that justice to each individual and not create discrimination between each other in order to maintain harmony with each other.
Assalamualaikum. I introduce myself. My name is Minha Fatima. I am talking about the topic impact on secular humanism. The first one is Islam and challenges of secularism. Sayyid Naqib al-Attas states that secularism removes the nature's link to God, separates politics from religion and make values changeable. Islam opposes this and has its moral system is fixed and timeless. The second one is social and cultural impact. Secularism through media and technology weakness religious values, promotes immoral acts like adultery and homosexuality, and undermines the family. Some Muslim secularists, like Taha Hussein, admires the call for adopting Western civilization. The third one is impact on education. Secularism removed God from education, promoting only word knowledge and weakening the moral values. In the Muslim world, this led to divide between traditionalist and secular modernists late sought to combine religious and modern education. The fourth one is impact on politics. Secularism separates religious from state, advocating for secular politics. It challenges Islam by reducing its personal rituals and denying its role in government. Reforms like secularism. That's all from me, and I will pass this to next presenter. Thank you.
Today I will explain and elaborate about strength of human secularism from Islamic perspective. First and foremost, emphasis on reason and ethics. Secularism encourages independent thinking and making choices based on logic and ethics. Islam also supports thinking and reflection, but under the guidance of Allah. In Islamic view, Islam teaches the importance of reflection and using the mind. In Quran, it stated, "A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Awalam yatafakkaru fi anfusihim ma khalaqallahu as-samawati wal ard wa ma bainahuma illa bil haqq wa ajallu musamma wa inna kathiran minan nasi bi liqa'i rabbihim lakafirun." It means, do they not thinking about themselves? Allah created the skies and the earth and everything in between for a reason and for a set of time. Complementary view, Islam values reason, which is akal, but it must be guided by divine revelation to reach true understanding. Second is promotion of human rights and justice. In many secular countries, people are free to speak, believe, and treated equally under the law. These are seen as basic human rights. But in Islamic view, Islam also strongly emphasizes justice. Justice is a command from Allah. Qala Allah Ta'ala, "Inna Allaha ya'murukum an tu'addu al-amanati ila ahliha wa idha hakamtum bainan nas an tahkumu bil 'adl. Inna Allaha ni'ma ya'zikum bih. Inna Allaha kana sami'an basira." But there are key differences between secularism and in Islam. In secularism, justice can change based on society's views and new laws. But in Islam, justice is constant and based on the Quran and Sunnah only. Sharia is seen as the most perfect system because it comes from Allah. The next part is shortcomings of human secularism from Islamic perspective. First, rejection of divine authority. In human secularism, religion is separated from government, law, and public life. But in Islamic view, Islam is a complete way of life, not just a worship. Islam also teaches us how to live, just right and wrong and govern. Evidence from Quran, "A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Qul inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alamin." There's also evidence from Hadith. Prophet Muhammad SAW said, "Whoever adds something to this religion that is not part of it, it will be rejected." Conclusion, Muslims should not separate religion from any part of life. And also, making systems without Islamic teaching goes against Islam. Second part is materialism and spiritual emphasis. Human secularism often focuses too much on money, career, fame, and material success. It usually ignores about spiritual purpose and religion purpose, that connection with God. But in Islamic view, life is not just about wealth, fun, and luxury. This life is temporary and test for the hereafter, which is akhirah. Evidence from Quran, Qala Allah Ta'ala, that means know that this worldly life is only play, amusement, luxury, boasting, and competition in wealth and children. In the hereafter, there will be severe punishment and forgiveness and pleasure from Allah. This worldly life is only a deceiving enjoyment. Conclusion, Islam teaches balance between physical needs and spiritual growth. Muslims should not get too attached to worldly life. Here I will make a conclusion from our assignment. There are four of them. First is final thought, that Muslims can benefit from some aspects of secularism, but must stay connected to Islam teaching for a balanced and meaningful life. Second is positive contribution, which is promotes freedom, equality, and rational thinking. Third is in Islamic perspective, which is human secularism supports justice and knowledge. Good points, but it separates religion from daily life. That is problematic. In Islam, religion must guide all parts of life, not just personal belief. And last but not least, negative effects. that is, remove spiritual and religious values from other life. That's all from us. Thank you.
Humanism is the idea that human beings are special, that they are not mere animals, but secular humanism. In other words, we don't need God to exist to justify our specialness. That's the secular humanist idea. Here's the problem. In order to offer some kind of meaning to what you and I actually are, to offer some kind of moral dimension to life, if we are the pinnacle, if there's nothing higher than us, then we become the measure of all things. If that's the case, then everything is a matter of human opinion. Because if human beings are the determiner of all things, then all we are left with is human opinion, and it changes. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But if God exists, then he infuses our lives with actual meaning and value.
Yo guys, Assalamualaikum. So welcome back to our Chill Corner podcast. So today we are going to discuss about a big topic, secular humanism. But don't worry, that will not explode your brain, because today we are not alone, because I have a special and intelligent guest. So let me introduce you to our guest. So joining us today is first Associate Professor of Philosophy, Dr. Faizatul. Yeah, hi. So our second guest is a lecturer in ethics and social studies, Dr. Fatima. And last but not least, our special guest is a final year student in philosophy and political science, Miss Aisha. Okay. So let's move to our first ever question, because we don't want to wasting our time. So my first question is, I will ask to Dr. Fatima. Dr. Fatima, how does secular humanism influence the way we shape public policies like education, healthcare, and law?
Oh, that's a good question. So, for my answer for this question is, here secular humanism brings the idea that policies like education, healthcare, and law should be based on reason, science, and human values, not only particular religious belief. So some of the examples are: education teach science without pushing the religious belief, and hospitals follows medical evidence, and law protect the human rights equally regardless their religion belief.
Oh, I see. Thank you, Fatima, for an insightful thought and opinion for me. So without wasting time, I will ask the second question about religious belief to Miss Aisha. Miss Aisha, in a multicultural society like our Malaysia, can secular humanism coexist with religious beliefs? Can you give your opinion?
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. To answer that question, in a diverse society like Malaysia, secularism can definitely coexist with religious belief. As long as there is a mutual respect, because secular humanism is not about fighting religion, but it is more about making sure that religion, whether Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, or Hindu, or anyone else, is treated fairly, and their respect and their rights are respected. And then if we all hold on the values like tolerance, freedom, and justice, there's really no issue for secularism and religion to move forward together. For example, in public law and education, we can focus on common principles that everyone agree on, without touching religious sensitivity. So the key here, we all need to have respect, understanding, and finding common ground. So I think that's all.
Thank you, Miss Aisha. For the answer, because I think that is very important, since we live in Malaysia that majority of us is Muslim, right? So let's move to our last ever question that will be asked to Dr. Faizatul. So Doctor, some people say secularism can make people lose their religion. Is that true?
Oh, for the question, not necessarily, because human secularism more on handling public matters without involving religious. But there are still plenty of secularists who are still religious because they believe that faith is a personal thing, not something to be imposed on everyone. But there are still more people who are atheists because they strongly embrace secularism, but they just an personal choice.
Oh, so we have our own right to choose, right?
Yes.
I see. Thank you to all guests for today. It's sad because that's a wrap for our today's episode on human secularism. We have learned a lot from now. It shapes our values on how it's not about rejecting religion, but more about using reason and fairness to guide decision in society. Hope it gave you all some food of thought. So don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you enjoyed this chat. Bye bye!